Good morning, good morning. It's Jean Simpson here, people and culture subject matter expert, entrepreneur and CEO of Born Ready Consulting. So I'm here live with you today to go through my 3-day live launch of Hot Topics and 2023 strategic planning. So thank you for joining me. We've got a number of people joining from all over the world, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much. If you are in the chat, please do put where you're joining from, and if you're watching the replay, just put hashtag replay and where you're joining from, because I'd love to know and love to hear from you. So we've got 2 topics for our day 1 today. Our first topic today is future state, and what does the future state of work look like for employees. And the other topic is talent attraction. What exactly do employees want in this post-pandemic era? So let's pull into that. Hey Paul, welcome. Great. All right, Mother. So I'm just carrying on. So the 2 topics we've got today are the future state and the talent attraction. So just to give you a little bit of introduction and background on myself. So Jean Simpson, I've worked in investment banking for almost 30 years, worked with financial services for most of that time. I've had a very varied and diverse career during that time, working on anything from equities, IT, compliance, and audit. So I've kind of been around all 3 lines of defence, really. So incredibly varied, incredibly lots of experience and diversity there. Anyway, so that's a little bit about me. So moving into the first topic of like future state of work, I think we can't deny that we're living through a fundamental transformation in the way that we work. I think automation and these kind of thinking machines or AI is replacing some of those human tasks and jobs. And I think the changing skills that organisations are looking for in their people is certainly evolving. I think we've got some momentous changes and huge organisational and talent requirements, and that's going to affect how we work with our HR department. So I think at the moment, we've got an awful lot of things up in the air and lots of flux. We've got business leaders already wrestling with unprecedented risks, disruptions, political and societal upheaval. So I think we've got a real mixed bag for an evolving business landscape. I think the pace of change is certainly accelerating. Competition for the right talent is fierce. And I think that talent, from what certainly what I remember talent as being when I was going through I still am going through my career, I guess, is certainly not how we're seeing things today. Many of the roles, skills and job titles that were in place recently, I think are going to change and evolve as we move forward. I think how businesses and organisations look to attract and keep talent and certainly motivate people is also changing, and we're going to touch upon some of that as we go through. I think from my perspective, just looking at leadership as one kind of element of this, I think we've gone from a very conventional leadership style, and this is certainly was in place pre-pandemic, if you like, where we've got a kind of a belief system of a conventional leader, which is very much, I make the decisions, I've got all the answers, this is how it's going to be. I think the new normal of leadership style, and that sort of slight mindset shift, is around more of a belief where we strive to do the right thing, deliver the best results, and it's a lot more collaborative. I think there's an acknowledgement that we don't, as leadership, have all the answers, and so there's kind of definitely much more of an engagement piece there. On the impact side of things, from an impact on a conventional leadership style, is very much, there's no need to consult anyone around me, above me. I've got all the answers. We'll act on my agenda. I think now the new normal, the more collaborative leadership style is certainly around more of a consultative, seeking feedback, encouraging innovation in order to kind of optimize opportunities. From a style, like I say, conventionally, it was much more detached. I think it's much more delegating instruction, very top down and focused, task driven. Now we're seeing leadership, or certainly those that are engaged, those that are looking to move forward with that kind of mindset shift. We're seeing much more leadership style providing a clear direction, seeing the leadership team as one team, working together collaboratively, being very connected to employees within the organisation, and building positive beliefs about the future together. I think from a behavioural standpoint, the command and control and the everyone I can see outside my office type of approach, I think that is changing, certainly changing. We're definitely seeing much more of a trusting environment, wanting to empower and engage with employees and give them that opportunity to kind of feel involved. And I think it's very much the leadership style that we're seeing is very much a shared agenda, where people, clients and organisation are very much at the centre of everything an organisation is looking to do. So I think once we've put that into the context of leadership style, I think that it kind of makes sense of how the workforce and how strategic workforce planning, which is another hot topic that I'd probably talk about for ages as well. But I think it's very important to understand and to appreciate that leaders need to evolve. Leaders need to change that slight perspective, and we'll go through that as we talk this morning. I also think that within this whole workforce planning, the workforce of tomorrow, if you like, looking forward to 2030 or beyond, and 2030 is only kind of like 7 years away. That's not very, very far. I think the message for leaders around this whole workforce piece is around acting now, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to start this conversation now. It's very much that change is already happening and it's accelerating, and I think we need to get involved in that. I think we need to get on board with that, and I think we need to start working towards that. I also think that it's probably not a case of tiny steps to start with. I think sometimes we need to think a little bit more radically, or we need to think dynamically, and I think that businesses are approaching this with a view that, okay, there's a lot going on, let's try and prepare ourselves as well as we can, and I think that it's about people rather than jobs and roles, if you like. So I think organizations are do acknowledge that they can't protect all jobs, that there's no possibility, or wouldn't it be lovely if you could just say that every job will remain today? That things move on, things evolve. So I think that there's an acknowledgement there, but I think that organizations, what we're seeing is organizations do feel responsible for their people, and I think that although you can't protect jobs per se, I think there's certainly a view to nurture agility, adaptability and reskilling, and I'm certainly seeing that in the marketplace with some of the clients that I'm working with. I think one of the most important things that we need to be aware of, and this isn't just in future workforce planning, this is this kind of goes across the board in cultural pieces that I'm doing and everything else. I think communication is absolutely imperative. I think having clear a clear narrative, open and transparent as far as you can be. I think there is, and we're going to touch upon this tomorrow in some of the data literacy and cultural change piece. I think that there is a level of anxiety that is being that is building up around people's future and their jobs due to automation and technology and advancements. I think that that anxiety tends to kill confidence and that willingness to kind of innovate and be on board and engage. So I think that as a leader, making sure that you have the ability to make employees feel engaged and with you as part of the journey, and to start a kind of a mature conversation and be as open and transparent as you possibly can be at this, at any point in time. I think that's really important. So from a kind of future state, if you like, I think there's potentially four types of businesses that will evolve out there. We've obviously got the corporate is king, the big organization that will continue to grow with bigger and bigger kind of individual preferences and social responsibility. I think you've also got a type of business where it's very specialist, very niche, and I think the niche element of it will flourish. I think it will be very specialisms, niche kind of profit making organizations. I think that's the second one. I think the third one is probably the community-based business, where you've kind of got crowd-funded capital flowing with ethical and blameless kind of brands and approach. And I think that that's very much kind of artisans, like a new worker type of guild will thrive. And I think within those types of organisation, it's the human aspect that's highly valued. The fourth type of organisation I think that will continue to evolve is certainly the green type, where there's social responsibility, there's demographic changes, climate changes, sustainability, and I think all of those will become key drivers of that type of organisation. So what does that mean for kind of workers within each of those kind of four areas, if you like? So I think where you've got corporate is king, that kind of corporate business. I think workers in those types of environments are going to find are going to see that the pressure to perform is relentless. I think we're seeing it now, to be honest. I think that within those big organisations, the requirements as we've moved from pandemic into this period that we're in now, I kind of feel that I did a podcast on this probably about 12 months ago, where I said that the pressure cooker of burnout is just building and building and building. And I think for me, I think the corporate elements or the corporate organizations are going to look to provide pretty good packages for permanent employees where they've got excellent rewards. But I think that the demands will be, well, it's not just a 12-hour day. If you're working from home and you've got some sort of combination hybrid working, that's great. But there is an expectation now, because during the pandemic people were working long hours. I think that continues as the kind of future state grows. I think that corporates will continue, and like I say, we're going to touch upon the data literacy piece tomorrow. I think corporates will continue to monitor data on employees and will measure relentlessly, which again creates that kind of pressure cooker of performance, health, well-being. And I think that it's going to be difficult to anticipate how people are going to react to that kind of people risk, if you like. From a niche, that kind of specialism type of organization, I think it's going to be defined. I think it's going to be built by the individual with who've got lots of skills and a very niched experience and network. These types of organizations could look to have a very kind of almost like a net zero permanent employee. I think it's very much on demand, pivotal with the use of technology, supply chain, intellectual property. I think the commercial value of learning within these types of organizations will be absolutely imperative. And I think that workers in that kind of niche field will be very sought after, will be highly rewarded. But I think there's going to be kind of frequent movement around that kind of area, because obviously there's going to be a lot of vying for those specialisms. So I think those are the kind of first two types of organisations. The remaining two, we've got the community based. So that's very much kind of as I kind of touched upon, that kind of human feel to an organisation. I think that's where workers are going to feel the strongest loyalty. And I think that it's going to be certainly somewhere where you can kind of support, evolve, connect workers, provide training, very much a kind of, like I say, community feel type of organisation. And yeah, and I think that will be slightly different in the marketplace, but I think that will certainly there's a place for that. Lastly, we've got the kind of the green sustainable world. I think this is where we potentially could see employees enjoying kind of like family friendly, flexible working hours, encouraged to take part in their socially responsible projects, greater trust with the employer to treat them fairly in terms of pay, development, conditions. I think the high ethical standards in which these types of companies are held will cascade through the employees. And I think that there'll be a whole range of measures, including working efficiently, particularly to play to the green piece around travel, resources, and looking at those types of areas and elements within the workplace. There's obviously across all the four types of organisations that we're kind of seeing slowly evolve, being looked at and thought about. There's obviously an element around how you're going to find and resource and attract talent into each of those. I think in the corporate, I think organisations are going to compete to find to find and secure the best talent available. But I think they'll use extensive search and evaluation methods, and definitely look for those rising stars. I think in the more niche areas, I think it comes down to perhaps searching for talent or talent will be attracted in a combination of financial rewards and the opportunity to get involved in a winning project. I think that will be the draw for them in those types of companies. Then in the community-based thing, I think that if you get the values right, and then the idea is appealing, I think talented individuals will naturally flock towards that type of company because they want to do the right thing. It's very community-based. They understand the purpose and the vision. So I think that's what's going to appeal to those types of people. And then obviously the green type company, it's going to be like-minded individuals, expanding that kind of corporate family, taking care to nurture the right behaviours and attitudes. I think that's that. I think reward and performance, obviously across all four, is going to be involved. Learning and development, the role of HR. Now that's an interesting piece of how HR will evolve, and perhaps that's something that I'll happily talk to you about offline. But I think the role of HR in each of those types of organisations is very different. And I think that the role of HR, we are certainly seeing evolve. In working with my clients, I'm certainly seeing HR being used as in the SMCR, senior management regime. I know that's referred to differently around the world, but we're seeing HR being used as the kind of the admin source there, rightly or wrongly. But I've seen that across the marketplace, across the financial service clients I'm working with. But I think that the role of HR is certainly evolving, and I definitely think that, as I've touched upon, that the role of technology in managing its people is going to be different across those different types of organisations. But I think that technology is something to be embraced. Having worked in IT and seeing how things can be made better with technology, I think that's something, a positive thing. I think, all in all, I think adaptability is the key to the future. I think we can't deny that, and I think that the one clear lesson that arises is adaptability within organisations is essential for navigating the changes that we've got coming ahead. I think inevitably the responsibility is with the individual to look at their own career, what they're looking for, what their values are, really looking to ensure that they are well suited to the organisation that they're looking that they're working with. I think that finding and keeping talent people is going to be pivotal. And I think that there's going to be a huge challenge as we kind of evolve and work towards that 2030 or 2035, let's say, because 2030 really isn't that far away. But I can't stress enough about that risk of burnout. I think that we saw that with the pandemic in a lot of the work that I've done with my clients. We've seen that during the pandemic, a lot of people decided that actually, time out, my priorities are not going to the office 5 days a week. They're not, I want to go and live in the country and not have to commute. I can still work. I've still got a part to play. I think people decided to reprioritize some of their working life and reprioritize their life. And that work-life balance is, for me personally, has always been something that's a challenge. But we only get one life. This is not a dress rehearsal. And I think it's really important to ensure that actually we do the right thing for ourselves. I think it's important to take time out. I think organisations need to pay close attention to their employee value proposition as we move forward, because I think trying to attract and retain these specialist employees and is going to be a tough job in the first place, because I think that people are definitely being a lot more selective with what sits right with them as we kind of move forward. Just to check out a couple of statistics before I kind of wrap this up in the last 7 minutes. 86% of people across a poll of, I think it was 10,000 people that was done here, 86% of people saw adaptability as one of the major skills and attributes that they need to have as we move forward in this kind of evolving business landscape. Problem solving was up there at 85%, collaboration skills 81%. Strangely, right down at the bottom, we've got entrepreneurial skills at 50%. But risk management kind of hits the kind of middle level at 60%. And I think that's really telling, I think, in itself. But equally, just to give you one last statistic here, 74% believe it's their own responsibility to update their skills rather than relying on the employee. So I think there's definitely that much more of an appreciation that you need to look after yourself rather than rely on an employer to have that forward planning career path for you. So just touching on the succession planning, although I know I've kind of talked about it and weaved it through this morning, I think the big kind of summary points are, from an employee perspective on the talent and succession and engagement piece, employees are very much looking for flexibility in location and hours, and a clear strategy in their professional and personal development, with the employers looking to build individual capability around data, and we'll touch upon that tomorrow, and technology. I think that it's very important that the culture, the purpose, the meaning, the values, and the strategy is clearly aligned to the individual. I think that's a really big point that we're seeing, that is something that's valued for employees, when they're looking for a new role. And I think there's really high expectations of leadership in facilitating and presiding over a strong culture, and a real evidence of tone from the top. We're certainly seeing in the marketplace, or with clients I'm working for, I'm certainly seeing people doing a lot of research before they go into interviews, and which is only right and correct, but they're really looking for what is, to align themselves and to look what's meaningful for them. From an employer perspective, I think employers are looking for flexibility and adaptable workers who are agile and willing to become more agile, which kind of plays to some of the niche / community-based organisations, perhaps. I think employers are looking for individuals to take on portfolios of work, and to be very technology savvy. I think that is a real must in the kind of marketplace today. People who are creative, standalone, can work as either collaboratively or autonomously, I think is really important. And I think it's where the kind of diversity and inclusion piece is rising up the agenda, certainly with the FCA putting out their D&I requirements for companies. I'm seeing that too, having worked with the FCA as well. So lots of lots there. I've rattled through that very quickly. These are my insights that I'm seeing, or having worked with clients. I think it's really important to appreciate and understand that we are in a business evolving landscape. There's lots of things going on in the in the wider holistic view of the world. I think there's obviously lots more I could say. I would like to kind of leave you in the last couple of minutes with a little example of something I heard recently, which was about a woodman. So it's one of my little stories. So a woodman decides to go and get a job, and he gets a job in a lumber yard, and he's taken on by the lumber company, and they give him an axe and they send him out, and he goes out, and on the first day he cuts down 18 trees. He comes back to the yard that evening and he says to his boss, I've cut down 18 trees. And the foreman says, oh, I can't believe that. That's amazing. You've done really well. You're the best woodman that we've got. Fantastic. He comes back the next day, and he only cuts down 15 trees. He's worked really hard. He's worked just as hard as the day before, but he's only cut down 15 trees. We see that kind of slow reduction in his productivity across the course of the week and the next couple of weeks, where he's gone from cutting down 18 trees a day to 15 to 12 to 10. Over the course of this, of the month, he's now, it doesn't matter how hard he works, whether he works through his lunch breaks, whether he works longer hours, whether he works more days during the week, his productivity has drastically reduced from his first day. And the foreman says to him, I don't understand what's going on, but unless you up your productivity, you're not even hitting our average requirements for bringing in the lumber. So So the woodman gets to the stage where he can't do anymore. He is just working himself to the into the ground. He's working really, really hard, and yet he's not producing anymore. So it ends up where, unfortunately, the foreman has to say to him, "I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to let you go because you're just not hitting the productivity levels." So the woodman is obviously upset. He feels really disappointed in himself, and he hands back his axe to the foreman, and he says, you know, here's my equipment that you've given me. I'm really sorry that this hasn't worked out. And the foreman says to him, "When did you last sharpen your axe?" And the woodman says, "I've never sharpened my axe. I've worked really hard, really productively, but I've never sharpened my axe." And I'm going to leave you with that little thought as something to think about, that actually sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you're working, it doesn't matter how much effort you're putting in. Sometimes it's the simple things like taking some time out to sharpen your axe, to think about things differently, that's important. I love to work with C-suite people, business owners and entrepreneurs, to sharpen their axe, if you like. My approach is very much where I do think about things differently. I hope that you found today's little insights useful. I hope that you found some nuggets of elements that you would perhaps like to discuss with me further. And I would really encourage you to use the link on my. I'll post a link to ensure that you have that easy accessibility to book a consultative call with myself. I would love that. Tomorrow we start at 9:30 again. We've got 2 topics tomorrow: psychological safety and well-being, and data literacy and cultural change. So I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Really, really appreciate your participation and your feedback. And yeah, join you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you.